Well, everyone, I get to the joy of talking about a book I have, and it's released today. You can order it today on Amazon, ebook, um, Kindle book, or of course, a small print book. I kept it short so it's easy to use. It's more like a handbook, what you would get at a lot of the trainings. So let me tell you a little bit about the book. And I named it Behind the Curtain, CIA, FBI Secrets, right? Because being in the hypnosis, NLP, coaching world, and psychology, all of those groups would say they're the best in the world at reading people, right? And I will say they're all good, depending on what's going on. But I was allowed to go to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia for the now they call it crisis negotiation. When I went, it was hostage negotiation. And got to hang out there for a couple of weeks, then went and hung out with some of the profilers and learned how do they do what they do, which led me to talking to some people that did it for other agencies in the government, right? And these people, you could be a hypnotist, an NLP or psychologist, and you think you're good at reading people. Well, these people, some of them, their life literally depends on how they're reading the person in front of them. And they've got a very truncated time frame to read the person, influence them, and massive influence. You're not just getting somebody to sign up for a weight loss program. They're getting people to sell out their government, do all kinds of stuff. It's fast. Or, with the FBI, and if you've watched TV shows, when they're doing the investigations, how they structure it. It's not like every once in a while you see one, or I'll see one on TV that's pretty much how they do it, right? It's not, the old light bulb screaming at you and doing that, right? So anyway, let's talk a little bit about it. Most people think influence is something you do with words, and especially the NLP world and the hypnosis world gets caught up in that. I always say the worst trait I see hypnotists and NLPers and coaches make is they fall in love with their own voice. They think that people are paying to hear them talk. They're paying to whatever it is, stop smoking, sell more cars, whatever they stop drinking, whatever they reached out, right? But the truth is their influence is something happened long before the words even start, right? Because why could I say a sentence to someone and in a group and one person will relax and another person will super relax and open up, and someone else will lock up, right? Well, it has to do with, you have to realize, and this is what I learned through this kind of training, is you're not talking to even their conscious or their subconscious mind. You're actually talking to their nervous system. You're reading their nervous system, right? And so this is where the fun happens. NLP changed how even therapy changed. I've seen that, right? But NLP and then hypnosis and that, right? I always say if you learn VAK and meta programs and the things we learn in NLP, it's like an X-ray. X-rays changed medicine because like when Bruce broke his arm, they couldn't just guess. They could see a picture and go, this is what we're working with. And the NLP stuff opened it up. It was like an X-ray into people. Works great. Still is fabulous. That is great. But if you add the next level, it's more like an MRI. It's moving and in real time. X-ray is a snapshot, right? But your MRI constantly changes, right? Now they use MRIs in operating rooms, right? So how do you read people fast? How do you spot deception? So I'm going to give you a quick overview on it, right? And this is what the book is. And again, I wrote the book mostly as like a very short, easy, it's like a handbook. So you don't, modeled it on Who Moved My Cheese and the 1 Minute Manager, books like that. So what we're going to do is talk about, there's some personality types, right? And it's not so much personality, it's that people are driven by their emotional needs, right? And I break it down into like 6 psychological social drivers, right? And they're very fast. There's significance, approval, acceptance, intelligence, pity, and power and strength, right? And when you see these people, it gives you an insight in, like I said, if you can read them quickly, you begin to notice. So when you do use words, you're using the words that matter. So a significant person, give you a quick overview. They're the kind of person, their main need is they need to feel they matter, that they're significant, obviously, right? They're the type that they'll wear a Rolex and make sure you see. I just have an Apple Watch, but the people have to show you their Rolex, right? And so if you want to communicate with people like that, if you catch that drift, it's most people don't understand things like you do, right? So they're not really lying or anything, they're broadcasting. So then you have, I'll put the next two groups together, approval and acceptance. These are people like for approval, they ask for approval when it's not really necessary. I always use the example in my office, I had Kleenex all over the place, one on each side of the client, one by me, one by the door. And then people would be crying and they'd say, is it okay if I have a Kleenex? I said, yeah, the dollar jar is next to it. Just put $1 in, right? No, but it's like, why, it's a given, but these people need it, right? They don't want conflict. They want emotional green lights, right? And acceptance people goes a little bit deeper than just approval. It's like, do I belong here, right? And so they'll stay in a group. They'll be, if you're talking about music, they'll go, I love that band too. Even if they've never heard of that band or actually hate that band, they don't want to say, like when I tell people I'm not a Beatles or a Queen fan, right? That would not be an acceptance move if the group is like raving over it. And then you have intelligence people that are driven by intelligence. They don't want to be seen as being foolish, right? So it's kind of fun stuff, right? And then we have pity, the people that, and it's not that when you're upset, let's say you lose something, a loved one or business deal, you're going to be a little bit in self-pity, but when it becomes their personality and how you can read those people. And then power and strength. These are the people I always say you see here in Florida or all over the country, driving the big pickup trucks, jacked up way high, but they have the chrome wheels. So they never go off road, right? But it looks strong. I was telling my wife, the guys that are wearing skin tight tank tops in this weather down here in Florida while they're in the health club. It's like, but they want to show they're strong. They won't be weak, right? And so they're always challenging you, right? And so if you see a person like this, I respect strength, whether it's emotional strength, mental strength, or physical strength. Let's talk directly. But let me throw in something really fun with it, which is, to kind of close, how do you read these people when it comes to, are they lying, right? First of all, you never know if someone's lying or not. You can just tell their stress level, right? Because when you're under stress, that's what the good profilers are reading. They're not really reading whether you're truthful or not. They're monitoring your stress level. So significant people exaggerate. They say that because they want to be important, right? Approval liars will say whatever you need to hear, right? And the only political statement will say, just look at all of the people in the president's cabinet. Right? And this is every president, right? But they're seeking approval. Acceptance will even lie to stay in a group. Intelligence liars are kind of interesting. They hide behind complexity. This is where I say slam half of the personal coaches, NLP trainers, and hypnotists out there. They try to sound like psychologists. They want to be seen as super intelligent, right? And so it's hard for them to admit they messed up, right? And then I'll just go over the last one is strength people. They want to project strength at all costs, right? And again, it's not that they're lying, they're projecting their needs. And if I know what your need is, like if it's to be smart, I can flatter that and get you on my side, or I can threaten it. Bruce, the only really smart, strong people would take my trainings. That will feed into that kind of person, right? So anyway, that's what the book is about. I want to have some fun with it. That's why I did this, and it's like a little book like Who Moved My Cheese, which I like, or my other favorite book, going over a little second, is my wisdom The Wit and Wisdom of Cowboys. It's these little one-page things. I love this thing, right? So anyway, that's that. So you go to Amazon.com, obviously, and it's called Behind the Curtain, FBI CIA Secrets, Psychological Tactics of Influence, Deception, and Detection and Behavioral Profiling. And we have it, of course, ebook, Kindle, and a print version. And the Audible book should be done soon. So I hope everybody enjoys that. Where's Okay, hold on.